we're told that Herod goes out and appeals to Mark Antony, who then goes on his behalf because Mark Antony had a relationship with Herod's father. And then we have this nice scene where Mark Antony goes before the Senate and basically says, hey guys, we don't want to go fight over there. There's this nice guy who will do the fighting for us, and let's just let him do this thing. And all the Senate goes, oh yeah, that sounds really good. That sounds really good. And Herod now, there's a moment where Herod is walking out of the Senate between Mark Antony and Caesar. And Josephus tells us, right, you have this like little trio with Herod in the middle between these two huge figures, and Herod is now coming back to be made as the client king after a couple of years of fighting, finally gains control of Jerusalem in 37. But can we talk a little bit about Josephus's version of events? Because if there's a lot with the politicking of how he is describing this.
Good grief, Josephus makes Herod the Great appear to be the most important person. Look who he's standing in between, right? So the question that we always have to ask about Josephus is this an exaggeration? Is this Josephus's attempt to elevate all things Jewish because he tends to do this. On occasion, grain of salt, he tends to exaggerate to elevate the Jewish. That's his job, right? His job to, without upsetting Rome too much, to elevate Judaism, elevate the key figures as much. But then again, you can, if you like politics, if you like this, if you're into political strategy, if you watch television shows and movies like this, if you watch West Wing or if you watch House of Cards, if you like this kind of stuff, this is exactly what's going on. Herod sees a chance at political advancement if he sees, okay, this guy is going to go over and help the Parthians. I can use this by going over to Rome and saying, I'll help you against the Parthians if you will make me king. By the way, I don't like these people anyway. They always call me half Jewish, right? By the way, my name is Herod the Great. You killed my father, prepared to die, right? Antipater was assassinated, and he's got a grudge against some of these folks because he was helping the Romans and they wanted to come back. And so he's got a grudge. And what you begin to see is how Herod the Great, from a very young age, from the beginning of his political career, began to be why was Herod the Great so paranoid? Is this an exaggeration on Matthew's behalf, or is this? No, according to Josephus, from an early age, he was making, by the way, early on in Herod's career, he backed the wrong horse, right?
Yes.
He made friends with Mark Antony.
Mark Antony's essential to him.
Apparently given speeches on his behalf in the Senate. And then, not so nice things happen with Mark Antony. And then he has to go and say, mea culpa, and it works.
That scene, it's like Herod as the political operative. According to Josephus, again, always according to Josephus, he is so good because, he backs the wrong, following the whole battle, Herod comes in 37, he cleans things up. He stays friends with Mark Antony. Sometimes Josephus says Mark Antony's his friend because of his relationship with his father. Sometimes he says because, Herod was throwing so much money his way that he's always on his good side. But he manages to escape the wiles of Cleopatra and stays on Mark Antony's good side. Conveniently, Herod is off at another battle and not there when everything goes south for Mark Antony. And later he goes like, oh, I guess I need to go do my due diligence to the new guy, and goes forward and says basically, I backed your enemy, but judge me on like the level of my loyalty, not on who I backed. And Octavian goes like, oh, you're right. I need a good friend like you. Gives him his crown. Herod came in without his crown, gives him his crown back, and expands his reign. And so Herod, so paranoid later, justifiably, I think, but also a wonderful tactician in how he's moving around through these circles. And I think that part usually gets skipped over because understandably we want to jump to all of the people that Herod kills or doesn't kill or worries about, but we don't understand why is he so paranoid. It's because of how he got here. He knows how he came to power.
he was avoiding all of his internal strife, but that internal strife was begun with his father. And these, I mean, he literally goes to Rome and says, "You saw how loyal I was to Mark Antony, right? Sorry about that. I will be just as loyal to you." And he bends the knee, or whatever, whatever House of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Yeah. He bends the knee. Yeah.
He bends the knee, and he basically says, "I can do that for you too. By the way, you're going to need me out here, and I'm happy to do this. I'll keep my own people in check for Rome. It's a people that has this tradition of rebellion, and I'll keep them in check. By the way, here's my rationale for it. They killed my father. They've been rebel. I'm not, they don't see me as an insider." And that this argument works. And so from the day he becomes king, there are a lot of scores to settle. There are a lot of factions. And so he becomes king. It's not like he got old and just became paranoid. From the day he ascended to the throne, there were people coming after him, and he was going to have to take care of it. By the way, it's the same thing that King David did. If you go back and read the stories of David, it's the same thing that Solomon did. You wipe out anybody who's a potential threat to you. And that's what Herod did. But we read about David and Solomon doing it, and we're like, man after God's own heart. And we read King Herod doing it as like the most evil villain ever, right? And a lot of this is because of the way the Bible casts these characters. King David, man after God's own heart, greatest king ever. But the Bible casts King Herod as this guy that tried to kill baby Jesus. And so we have this different opinion of him. Josephus is at least trying to give us the story as to how Herod became Herod.